I would appraise this book actually at about $40,000.
Let me tell you, you are lucky.
You probably saved my job.
Well, you can thank me with some chocolate or something.
Rebecca Romney seemed like the ideal rare book expert on Pawn Stars Scum, intelligent and trusted by Rick Harrison himself. But in 2014, everything shifted. A rare book valued at $40,000 surfaced on the show, and soon after, the FBI began investigating how stolen items had made it onto national television. Rebecca was questioned, and by January 2015, she disappeared from the series without any explanation. There was no farewell, no official announcement, just silence. Today, we uncover what truly happened behind the cameras and why the truth stayed hidden for so long. Rebecca Romney was born on April 6, 1985. In the warm desert city of Phoenix, Arizona. Nothing in her early life hinted at a future surrounded by rare books and multi-million-dollar manuscripts. In fact, she once joked that old books were little more than boring relics for elderly men. Her ambitions lay elsewhere. She dreamed of becoming a philosopher or perhaps a translator. She had a deep love for languages, complex ideas, and meaningful discussions. Passions that seemed far removed from the auction world she would eventually help define. At 18, she began college, with the expectation that her life would revolve around classrooms and academia. By the time she was 22, she had mastered 5.5 languages: English, French, Japanese, Latin, Ancient Greek, and some Old English. She achieved this through intense self-study, often dedicating 12 hours a day to her learning. On one occasion, she translated a Greek papyrus dating back to 300 BC for a university exam and passed with flying colors. Her professors were stunned, and these very skills would later allow her to detect forgeries that might have cost collectors millions of dollars between 2003 and 2007. Rebecca pursued philosophy and classical studies at Brigham Young University. While her classmates tended toward more conventional majors, she immersed herself in 4-hour seminars debating free will and spent long nights deciphering ancient texts in their original languages. She overloaded her schedule with extra classes, maintained a flawless GPA, and graduated with honors. Her thesis compared centuries-old Greek fragments of Plato's Republic. Although no one realized it at the time, this unusual blend of philosophy and language expertise was laying the groundwork for something extraordinary in 2007. Just after graduation, Rebecca made a mistake that unexpectedly altered the course of her life. She applied for what she assumed was a simple management position at Bowman Rare Books in Philadelphia. When she arrived for the interview, she quickly realized she had misread the job description. The opening was for a rare book specialist, a field she knew nothing about. She nearly walked out but chose to stay, confessing her lack of experience. Surprisingly, she was hired. Within a matter of months, she was entrusted with handling items worth more than most houses: a Shakespeare folio from 1623, a page from the Gutenberg Bible, and first editions of Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. She was suddenly immersed in a high-stakes world where a single error could cost a fortune. By 2010. Just 3 years into her career, Rebecca was promoted to gallery manager in Las Vegas at only 26 years old. By 2013, at 29, she became the youngest senior director in Bauman's history, a position that placed her in charge of catalogs, auctions. One of her clients spent $300,000 on a book printed in 1472. But Rebecca wasn't just successful at selling. She also had a remarkable ability to spot counterfeits others missed. Rick Harrison didn't discover Rebecca through a casting call. He already knew her. When she joined Bowman Rare Books in 2007, the company later expanded to Las Vegas, where she managed the branch by 2010. Rick, who had been running gold and silver pawns since 1989, moved in similar circles, and in a city like Las Vegas, the antique and rare book world was small. They met through events, mutual acquaintances, and a shared love of history. So, when Rick needed someone who could truly analyze not just books, But documents, signatures, and handwriting, he didn't rely on the show's producers. He personally called Rebecca. That phone call led to her first appearance on Pawn Stars in 2011, not as a television hire, but as someone Rick already trusted. That their friendship deepened off screen, and they even went on double dates together. What audiences never realized was that the calm, knowledgeable book lady they watched on television wasn't just well-suited for the role. She was handpicked. Her debut appearance took place in Season 4 on April 4, 2011, when she was presented with a stack of Civil War-era documents. Among them was a Confederate bond from 1861 that could have been worth $5,000 if genuine. She carefully examined the texture of the paper, the ink, and the printing process. In under 10 minutes, she identified a forged signature that reduced the value from $10,000 to just a few $100s. Audiences were riveted by her calm confidence and meticulous attention to detail. By the end of the episode, she wasn't simply another guest expert. She had become the book lady, and she stole the spotlight. Ratings even rose by 15%. From that moment on, anytime the shop acquired paper-based items, books, letters, or historical documents, Rebecca was the one they called. From 2011 through 2020, Rebecca appeared in roughly 30 episodes, with most of her appearances concentrated in the first 4 years. During that time, she evaluated everything from a $2,000 replica of a 1493 Columbus letter to an original broadside of the Declaration of Independence worth $15,000 in 2013. She shocked everyone by authenticating notes linked to Edgar Allan Poe that had been hidden inside what was thought to be a worthless manuscript. She even worked with 19th century slave trade documents, explaining how to assign value to such painful artifacts of history. By 2014, she was handling nearly 3/4 of the show's paper-related appraisals. Her work was never easy. On one occasion, she exposed a counterfeit Shakespeare folio that the owner believed was worth $10,000. Another time, she revealed that a $50,000 book was tied to an 1800s forgery ring, all while maintaining the same calm, measured delivery. Unlike other experts who dramatize their excitement, Rebecca's steady, composed style became her trademark. In 2012, she even saved Chumley's job. He had purchased what he thought was a signed copy of Charles Lindbergh's 1927 autobiography. "We paying $500 for it." Rick was furious, convinced it was a fake, and warned that if the signature didn't check out, Chumley would lose his job. Rebecca stepped in, compared the signature to verified examples, and explained how Lindbergh's autograph evolved over time. It turned out to be authentic and was valued at $1,500, triple what Chumley paid. Not only did the shop turn a profit, but Chumley also narrowly avoided being fired. She also prevented the shop from walking into legal trouble. One customer brought in what appeared to be Revolutionary War bonds, but Rebecca quickly discovered they were Confederate and tied to stolen Southern assets loaded onto the USS Republic, a ship that sank in 1865. The wreck had been found in 2003, and salvaged contents were still under dispute. These bonds could have been worth $50,000, but selling them would have invited lawsuits. Her careful research protected the shop from a costly mistake. Another dramatic moment came when a supposed Shakespeare first folio appeared. Authentic copies have sold for millions, including one that fetched $9.98 million in 2020, while the copy looked convincing. Rebecca noticed inconsistencies in the paper, ink, and printing. She concluded it was a forgery, possibly imitating the so-called false folio of 1619. Even though those have value, this one didn't come close. Thanks to her, the shop avoided losing thousands at times. However, items were both genuine and priceless. In one episode, she examined a first edition of Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species, published on November 24, 1859. Only 250 copies were printed, and they sold out immediately. Rebecca authenticated it by checking the green cloth binding diagrams and advertisements dated June 1859. She valued it at $75,000, emphasizing the book's world-changing impact on science and religion. Some annotated copies have even sold for over $500,000. Between 2011 and 2015, Rebecca became a fan favorite when she appraised a first edition of Frankenstein valued at $20,000. The episode ignited online discussions and earned her the nickname the Book Whisperer. She gained tens of thousands of followers, with fans urging producers to feature her more often or even give her a spin-off. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. In 2014, an episode aired that quietly triggered one of the strangest rumors in the show's history. A man walked into the pawn shop with what he claimed was an 1841 edition of the Book of Mormon. Rebecca examined it and estimated its worth at $40,000, though the seller wanted $100,000. Rick ultimately bought it for $24,000. At first, seemed like another smart deal for the shop until whispers began spreading that the book had been stolen from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah.